Down to the grid as the parade lap now is over. Let's go on toward what I think is the best view. As the 5 lights come out. And it's go! We are underway in Mexico. It looks like a very, very good start there from SLR Connor, but the McLaren unfairly has got a very good slipstream behind him. It's going to be very, very close into the first corner. What is going to happen here? But no, SLR Connor looks like it's gone out to take the lead, but Millsy has lost out to his teammate and looks at all this very, very tidy so far. But the Red Bulls also fighting with the 2 Aston Martins in the background there as well. And it looks like Greg is falling down the order. We got yellows in Sector 1, and it's 10-10. 10-10 has had an incident, but thankfully he hasn't been able to retire. He hasn't retired from the Grand Prix, which means that the Alfa Romeo is still going, but that is severely hurting his chances of winning this Grand Prix. As now the Bullet has retired from this session, and the VSC has already been deployed. Let's see if I can find where the Aston Martin crashed. But yeah, that's a bad start so far from both of the Astons. And any VSC period is going to help those who are thinking about going for the one-stop as you come down the order. So let's see, even attempt an overtake even without DRS here. He'll have his energy on, and looks like he's going to sail past the McLaren. He goes round to the inside. Is he going to clear him by the time he gets to the corner? No, he's going to brave it out. Oh, and that was so close. But IIRacingLeague in the Alfa Romeo takes second position. It's not been a good start for McLaren. There are yellows in Sector 1. What has happened there? I think one of the McLarens may have had a moment. It may have been Millsy, and Millsy is under attack from IIRL. So the start is getting worse for McLaren, it seems. It just goes to show those who are starting on the medium tyre just don't have the grip at the moment. So what duels with Sun God and gets through. So one of the Alpines drops back, the other looks to be scampering away at the moment. As already we have our first 3-second time penalty of this round, as it's IRL Hyper has had a moment, and 10-10 race going from bad to worse would have spun his tyres into oblivion. And now with the leaders coming up, he has got to stay out of the way and think very sensibly goes to the wide runoff just to have quite an intense battle between Millsy and Sun God. Now, does the McLaren have DRS on the Haas? No, it doesn't, but the Alpine has got DRS on the McLaren. But it doesn't look like he's got the space to use it, so he resides back for now. The others in Sector 1, so that'll be for 10-10's retirement. Sun God stays with him. Yeah, I feel for 10-10 too. It's a massive shame he obviously had to retire the way that he did. As Fairley, interesting enough, comes now into the pit lane, and it looks like he's repairing front wing damage. Yes, which now drops the McLaren, who has gone... It's yet another from bad to word moment for the McLaren, as it all looks pretty sweet and pristine for this man, SLR Connor, who on lap 6 of the Mexican Grand Prix has got a 2-second gap to IIRacingLeague. Behind him is Sammy Style, who is in 3rd position in the AlphaTauri, Platty in 4th in the Haas. Millsy only a second behind Platty, so this is a very strong drive, I think, from him. At least with this part, we'll get the medium tyres out of the way, and that way he'll be able to go onto softs, should he choose. All fighting each other. This is probably where the closest battle is right now, because there's only about 5/10 in it between Wiggles and Commence, and 5/10 between Wiggles and Appy. But APS Hawk on his comeback race is right behind these guys, and he's got about a 4/10 gap, so he's got overtake on, and he's got the DRS zone. He's got DRS on as well. Wiggles will surely be able to pass Appy, but he's saving a little bit of energy, so I don't know whether that's a sort of reservation thing or whether he actually doesn't feel he can overtake. But those medium tyres, if he gets them far, then that's just going to make his life on the soft, should he go to softs, much, much better. As look behind, Hawks is... Oh, look at that. Hawks has overtaken Commence into 9th place. That's a lovely, clean move there from APS Hawks, who is racing the number 19, which belonged to Felipe Massa. Commence drops behind, and now the Aston has now got the AlphaTauri of Wiggles to go. With lap 7, hopefully for him, his tyres should have a bit more life left in them, but this may be getting round to the stage where the soft tyres on for the AlphaTauri. Goes round to the inside of the first corner and he makes the overtake work, and at the same time Hawks is not too far behind himself. Appy will not have DRS. That's a very good point. Appy won a DRS. He will have a slipstream, but APS Hawks will have that as well. It looks like the Mercedes is staying with the AlphaTauri, so he won't lose any positions. Advantage, the Mercedes is under pressure. The Mercedes struggling to stay with the AlphaTauri, who's struggling to shake the Aston Martin, as we see Hawks around the outside, but he's not going to make it work. That could open the door for the Haas behind him. And now it is really tightening up between 7th, 8th and 9th place, as things are staying out in between the leaders. And it looks like there may be a moment behind for Padge, but IIRL Appy is losing out to APS Hawks, who goes for the overtake. He hasn't got overtake activated, but he's certainly got DRS, and now the Haas just looks like he's going to follow through, and he's not quite done it yet. Mercedes are just falling back at this race, and Padge has come in, and I believe he's retired from this race. I think he just lost the car and it's probably got too much damage for, but doesn't look like anything's going to happen. And SLR Connor has actually come into the pits, so that's a crucial stop. He goes onto the medium compound tyre, so it is a 2-stop that's going to be happening for SLR Connor. And Sammy Style also in the pits in the AlphaTauri. He's going to be going onto the mediums. Appy also coming into the pits. So already we have 3 pit stops, and now it is time for him to absolutely send it to make sure. Does Wiggles have DRS? Will he have got it from the Alpine? No, he doesn't. Hawks has dropped very far behind himself, but SLR Connor gets out way out in front. Iros J goes out onto the softs, but he's lost probably about a second due to the undercut. The AlphaTauri overtake the McLaren. He goes round to the outside of turn 4. Can he make the move stick? He hangs it around the outside, and I have to say, with the closing out the inside, he forces him off the track. It looks like a little bit of contact between the two, but now Platty's getting in on the yard. These two cars are absolutely glued together. But I have to say, from Sammy Style, that was a very opportunistic pass, a bit aggressive, I say maybe from defense, but he's made the move stick, and that's racing. That's just the way it goes. But he is now coming under pressure from Platty and Fairley. Fairley's had 4 laps to get used to these mediums, so he should have an idea of where the grip is, whereas Sammy Style, on the other hand, don't think he's had a full lap yet, so he may not know what the grip is, but will have fresh life in those tyres. As Let's Go on board with the McLaren, who is certainly going to be losing out to the Haas at this point, who's only a 10th behind. It looks very evident that the Haas is going to go through, and he does. But now Sammy Style is the one under pressure. And Hawks looks like he's doing a bit of a blinder, staying out on the medium tyres. Now can the Haas pass the AlphaTauri? Goes down to the inside. Can he make it stick? Not quite. No, but he's hanging out. He's trying. But he had to go over the track to overtake him. So I think he may have to give that position up. But it's certainly getting very, very punchy between these three. Whereas Ross J, on the other hand, will surely have to go onto the soft compound tyres and see what's happened. IRS Hyper has had a present, and the safety car has been deployed. we have our first safety car of the race, which is definitely going to throw the race around into some kind of order. But now that we see both Red Bulls unfortunately out, it looks like Padge crashed out in the stadium section, so expect about 3 laps or so behind the safety car. So the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, and Connor, I have to say, should be feeling a little bit of pressure. He won't have the outright grip that the soft tyres will have, and a few laps under the safety car should help out the runners behind him as well. But he has been absolutely lightning, as it showed in qualifying. Can he hang on to the lead? It looks like he's dropped it there. He's let everything go. But with cold tyres, it looks like he's done a good job of hanging that out. But now the race gets back underway, and he's moving left immediately to cover the toe that IIRacingLeague will be getting off from him. And there we go, he's weaving yet again. And behind Millsy looks to be making a move on Sammy Style. But SLR Connor has not, he doesn't back down. He's the overtaking him. Must have protected him for now. And Sammy Style has got a time penalty for multiple warnings as Platty now joins the fight between these two. Is IIRacingLeague going to attempt to move? No, it doesn't look like it. He has to hang back. As you see behind, the McLaren harassing the back of the AlphaTauri. Wiggles now as a time penalty. And look at the drive that McLaren gets. He actually does him with a virus switchback just before the S's. So Millsy takes 4th position from Sammy Style. Nice little piece of opportunist driving. As Sungod now comes under pressure from the Aston Martin of APS Hawks, who I have to say is certainly enjoying himself out there on his comeback race. Fairley drops down to 9th, and he's got a time penalty now for multiple track warnings. This is where it all matters in the lead. SLR Connor, it's going to be a drag race down to the first corner between these two. It looks like IIRacingLeague having the inside will have the high ground. And what is the Alpine going to do? It looks like he's going to tough out somewhere. Locks up the right rear. And IIRacingLeague takes the lead, which kind of shifts the tide of this race in terms of how it could go. Because there's medium tyres. If IIRacingLeague can pull out a 1-second gap, then that should protect him from DRS. And that means that IIRacingLeague could focus a little bit more looking after his tyres, because he's got to get those softs as far as he can, enjoys the pace, because those mediums are not as fast as the softs that SLR Connor is certainly going to have. As you can see just how much the medium tyre runner is suffering due to a lack of grip, because it's only 4 tenths now between himself and Platty, and penalties galore at the moment. So that's a 3-second time penalty for him, and that's not going to help him later on in this race. Oh, and look at the almost contact there between Millsy and Platty. This is certainly heating up between 2nd, 3rd and 4th place. It's clear that on the medium tyre, he is certainly struggling there. The medium tyre runners are, I don't know whether they're not getting heat or they just don't have the grip, but they are dropping like stones at the moment. However, it is going to be probably 3 abreast into the first corner. What is happening here? Platty goes into 2nd, and SLR Connor may be losing out 3rd position as well to Millsy. Millsy does him around the outside, and what a move. So close. You don't know where to look. The amount of action that's been going on this race has been truly incredible to watch, as SLR Connor definitely thinks better of it. That is certainly going to help IIRacingLeague in his bid for the lead and the eventual win. As Sammy Style hangs about in 5th, it's fairly easy pickings. The ones on the medium tyres are really struggling. Oh, and what's happened to Hawks? Hawks has had a moment and has dropped off all the way down into 8th position, and that is a costly mistake for him, and now down to 9th position now. As it looking on the calendar, looking on the screen, it is starting to rain. Amazing. Oh, look at that. Sun God fighting with Fairley. It is so close between these guys. In fact, you don't know where to look this race. This is truly brilliant stuff. And we've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Even the Mercedes now are certainly getting into the act as Fairley goes down to the inside to take 7th place from Sun God fights him onto the inside. He goes into the side. I think it might have been a little bit of contact between the two. This is truly brilliant racing, and if you're watching this, let us know how you've been, because I am certainly enjoying this and somehow managing not to run out of breath. Now, with the rain coming down, the soft tyre runners, they could work out to their advantage. With Bertie Boy, thank you so much for following. I think there's a few followers this far, and the safety car has been called out yet again. Hawks unfortunately has retired, and that is the second safety car of this Grand Prix, and with rain coming down, that is going to throw everything completely out of kilter. With the rain showing up as well, it's truly incredible stuff. It kind of sets you up. I mean, if you were to pit when the safety car's ended, you're just going to drop all the way to the back. You've got to take the intermediates now. Any kind of consolation is that Sammy Style, because this track, the problem is the track isn't wet enough yet for intermediates. And the problem with that is, you're going to take more life out of them. So when it does get to rain, you won't always have the grip that you need. There's so many possibilities as to what's happening here, as we see quite sensibly, IIRacingLeague goes into the pits, Millsy goes into the pits, Platty goes into the pits, and SLR Connor goes into the pits, and I all suspect that they're going to be going straight onto the intermediate tyre, and yes, they all are. I reckon they'll all certainly get out just before Sammy Style goes onto the medium tyre. So SLR Connor is going out onto the It's going out onto the soft compound tyre. So we got confusing strategies here as the rain's starting to come down. This could be either a brilliant move from SLR Connor, or he's going to end up like Lando Norris in Russia. It's not going to benefit the leaders, but hopefully, but from SLR Connor's point of view, if he can overtake those cars, then that should help him pull out enough of a gap to make up some of the deficit he would have lost with a pit stop. This has got to be one of the strangest races I've ever commentated on, but it's going to go out under. It's going to go back under the racing conditions once more. Let's roll on board with the Alpine and see what he does. His tyres will be somewhat cold. Is he going to go for a move? Yes, he is. He comes round from the inside. He leaves the space, but it's a fairly quick move, has to be said, done and dusted. As now, the dry-tired SLR Connor is right on the back of IIRacingLeague, and he immediately goes round to the inside, but the Alfa Romeo chops him off completely. He does not want that Alpine ahead of him and saving lots and lots of time, as Appy gets multiple warnings, and you see Connor, with all the grip in the world, just drives right round alongside of him. He has now got to move it if he wants to claw back and stand any chance left of winning this race. So everyone around has to be so gentle with managing their tyres, and look at the time he's building up already. Looks like the rain is still there, but it doesn't look like it's actually wet enough. It's all coming back to SLR Connor. In corners like this, anywhere where you have to get some braking on, that doesn't help the intermediates at all. As you could see through IIRacingLeague cars, he ended up having to lock up, and that's lost him position to Millsy. This could be one of those Donington-esque drives that we saw Ayrton Senna pull off, being on the right tyre at the right time. As Sammy Style looks like he's losing out to Fairley. It looks like he's edged him out under braking, and he's locking up so much, but the AlphaTauri falls behind the McLaren. Appy decides to go onto the softs. Greg decides to go out onto the mediums. But it's just so hard conditions to call here. Connors, it looks like he's been playing a blinder here, but the rest looks like they're kind of stubbornly staying out on the intermediate tyres. The top 3 who are staying out on the intermediates, it looks like it hasn't worked, the strategy. It doesn't look like for a second that it's been wet enough to get onto the rain, to get onto the full intermediate tyres. So the last time set by Connor was a 1 minute 20. The time set by IIRacingLeague coming around the final corner now. It's 1:24, 25. He's coming into the pits. As with SunGod, no, SunGod is staying out. But his time relative to is 8 seconds slower. Wiggles now comes into the pits. In those tyres like crazy. But with all things considered, it looks like he's trying to stay out to see if it does go to intermediate tyre. But this man looks to have thought ahead more than anyone around here. But still, anything can happen as you see the Alpine struggling like crazy for grip. And you can see the back end steps out of that as well. This should be a very, very easy pass, I think, for the McLaren. And I think the Alpine knows not to fight that one. Looks like everybody around has got a time penalty, save for this man, Millsy. What's happening for 4th and 5th? Looks like it's coming back to SunGod. He overtakes. DRS is active. Is that a sign then? Then it's definitely going to come back to those on the intermediate tyre. It's starting to look very slippery down there. I hate to know how much life is left in his tyres, because they must be crying out right now. So let's watch the gap between SunGod and Wiggles and see if it gets any bigger. I think that would be a sure sign, but coming up to near the end of this race, then I highly doubt that it would be anything. It could be an absolute blinder from SunGod if he ends up in a 4th position because of this, but he's still got 6 seconds of penalties, which will surely hand it to and look at that, what's happened to Platty? Platty looks like he's spun in the Haas, so Platty drops back and back and back, which should mean that as long as SunGod stays in front of Wiggles, they should get him 4th, as he stubbornly stays on those intermediates still. This is such a weird crossover point. You literally just don't know which is the right tyre at the moment, but 6th place is still a decent result for the Haas. There might have been a reset on the track. It was very sort of tidy, it must be said, but no, he's not going for the overtake. He hasn't got the confidence, it seems. Oh, and Wiggles has spun it. As he gets around, Wiggles has spun the car and is following right back into Platty's clutches. That means he'll surely lose out to the Haas, which drops him now potentially down into 6th. But no, he's got DRS from when he had it against SunGod. But the Haas is ahead, almost barges his way through there. As SLR Connor plays it very, very safe and goes onto the intermediates. There's no need for him to push. With DRS disabled now, that's the clear evidence. As with Millsy and IIRacingLeague, DRS has been disabled, so it's going to be hard for Platty to pass. But it's certainly coming to those on the intermediate tyres now. And with SunGod on his 13 lap old intermediates, I mean, I have to give him credit for toughing it out and making it work. Millsy is certainly beaten for sure, but he can't pick because he'll give up a 2nd place position. He just has to tough it out on these tyres. As IIRacingLeague struggles to get the power down. How does this affect SunGod? He'll surely have much more grip, but very burned out tyres. So that will counter any advantage I think that he has. as Mr. Wiggles drops behind. He drops behind Songod by about 2 seconds. He's following up to the back of the Haas, and look at that! That's a horrid moment there for Platty, who crashes the car and has to finish the race without a front wing, so he's surely going to end up last from that drive. But let's go back on to the onboard of the race winner, of the race leader so far, SLR Connor, who played an absolutely blinding cool with the strategy. He stayed out. You know, they say fortune favours the brave. He's certainly been the brave man today. SLR Connor comes across the line to win the Mexican Grand Prix by 22 seconds from Millsy. He wins in Mexico. The McLaren, who we thought was out of the running with, starting off on the wrong tyre, but he's done well to nurse that car home on dry tyres, it has to be said, as Wiggles is now losing out to Greg, so it looks like he may very well get him here, and Greg has got him here. Sorry to cut across from Millsy coming across the line, but there we have Iros J coming across the line to round off the podium slots. Songod sticking it out on the soft tyres, a very stubborn choice, but it certainly worked. Brilliant stuff for him to claim 4th place in the Alpine. APS Greg comes round the final corner to take 5th place in the Mercedes. As Mr. Wiggles loses out to Commence, who now drops down to 7th position. The Haas comes round to finish in 6th. Appy comes round to finish in 8th, and the Haas, who has no front wing, is sliding around all over the place. Oh, that feels so cruel, but I gotta be honest, it is a lovely sight. He's still not giving up. And he's lost the corner. This I shouldn't be laughing, but this is just brilliant. He loses his front wing. Props to you, Platty. I think that's certainly a mention for one of the best moments of the race so far. Greg gets driver of the day, but I think for me, for his call on the strategy for a serene pace, I'm going to have to give it to SLR Connor. That was a brilliant drive from lights to flag, and that is an example of a Donington-esque victory, I think, for SLR Connor, who was on the right tyre at the right time, and boy did he make that one work. I think I ran out of breath after that one. It was certainly a chaotic race, but it's an absolute pleasure to commentate on this one yet again. So we'll run through the order of everyone. So